welcome to ConGeek Live attendees joining us here broadcasting live to you from Johannesburg in South Africa. So very glad to have you with us. I'm Angus Brown and this is Lorien Gamaroff. We are the two founders of Centbee, which has been around in the CoinGeek and the Bitcoin world for quite some time. So we're going to spend the next few minutes just having a little bit of a fireside chat talking about Bitcoin and about Centbee. So glad you could join us. And I think I'll just kick off, Lorien, with just an origin story. Everybody has an origin story. When did you first get into things? When did you first hear about Bitcoin? How did you get your first Bitcoin? Can you maybe just share with us a little bit of that?
Yes, well, I've been a software engineer for a long time, and having been born in Zimbabwe and the experience of a currency collapsing, Bitcoin was always an interesting idea. This idea of sound money. At that time, I never really thought much about money and where it came from. But given the financial crisis that happened there, it sort of woke me up, and to think about these sorts of things. So at the time, I was building, and this was about 10 years ago, building payment electrical systems for smart grids. And one of the big issues that we had were, how do we get Africans who don't have access to bank accounts and traditional payments to easily purchase electricity using these prepaid systems that we had? And the two came together. We had this digital currency that wasn't backed or required banking to operate, and which seemed so accessible at the time. This idea of a cheap digital accessible payment system, it just really struck me. And that's at that time when I started looking into actually trying to integrate it into the vending systems that we had.
That's a fantastic story, and there's actually a movie that has been pushed out quite recently, starring our wonderful Lorien here. So look it up on YouTube. It gives a little bit of backstory. It was the early days. I mean, I remember when you first introduced me to the concept of Bitcoin. It was about 4 years ago. We were having some discussions, and I sort of got swept up with this amazing system that is this ledger that is just this coin that just works. I come from a banking background, so I understand payment systems and banking, and to be able to see how you could actually just rewire things properly. I was really excited about that. But that takes me also back to, 2016, 2017, when we formed Centbee. We've been through some journeys. We've been through some challenges. We've went from Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SV. Tell me, what is your views on why we went through those decisions at that point?
Yes, the whole idea of Bitcoin, it was always kind of confused with this idea of people wanting to have a financial system that was outside of government control. I think during the 2008, 2009 financial crisis, people who again, like me, weren't that interested in money, but when there was a collapse, people immediately started mistrusting governments in general. And so thinking about Bitcoin not only as a cash system, but also a financial system without control and without manipulation, without central banks being able to come in and manipulate the currency. That obviously swept a lot of people along. And then, of course, there were a lot of those kind of libertarian people who talked about Bitcoin being unconfiscatable and all those sorts of things. So you can see why, especially since Satoshi, kind of left the project and left it to the world to do with it whatever they wanted, why all these ideas kind of crept in. But, we've always had that approach that we wanted this to be a system that was accessible to most people. And of course, we can't create a system that's in isolation. It needs to operate within a commercial environment. There needs to be a whole infrastructure out there of companies who are willing to provide various aspects. For example, the stuff that we do. We integrate into payment service providers, points of sale. And those companies, there are legitimate companies. They have regulatory obligations that they need to fulfill. So if we want to create a Bitcoin as a payment system, we need to operate within that legal regulatory environment. So for us, I mean, we never took that view, although obviously in the early days when I was a little bit more idealistic, quite pleased about Bitcoin being something that didn't have a central planner behind it. But we see that this needs to be commercialized, and even Satoshi Nakamoto mentioned that this is a system that ultimately will become commercialized, and that's the only way it can be sustainable. So this is always been our view, try and create a system that can work with local rules and regulations. And that means, we can now have all the successes that we've had, especially with our onboarding. We've covered Southern Africa with the ability for people to buy, top up their Centbee wallet with Bitcoin. And now we're doing the payments, the purchases, people being able to spend their Bitcoin.
So during all that time, we built a wallet. I presume everybody out there has a Centbee wallet, which you can use for collecting your coins as you go along during the course of the conference. So we've got users like the people listening to this call as well, but we also have other sorts of users. Who do you think, tell me about your world of who do you think the actual Centbee customer is? What do they look like? What do they do? What do they buy? How do they get their Bitcoin?
Yes, so now we've been on that journey, and we're seeing the types of users that are coming on board, and especially now that we've made it possible for Southern African users to purchase things like mobile data, mobile airtime, electricity, and then of course, we're about to open up other digital payments like PlayStation and Xbox and Uber and Netflix. We're starting to see customers who didn't normally make those sorts of purchases on their own, people like teenagers and that, because now they can have a wallet and a digital wallet, and they can now go and purchase these things, and they were typically excluded prior to that. So as we thought, all those years ago, this is going to be a financial application, a financial system that can reach places that typically we never thought about. So we've had a lot of success in getting teenagers, but also the typically unbanked sorts of people here in Southern Africa to look at Centbee as a really useful thing.
And you're particularly excited about the ability to buy small value things. So being able to buy mobile data with your Bitcoin, what Jimmy's talking to about, data and Bitcoin being together. It's particularly nice that you can buy $1 worth of data with your Bitcoin, and you can buy, Bitcoin, you can sell it, you can move it around. It makes it smooth. It makes it a payment system. It makes it easy to use as money, not just as something to hold. So I'm, as a banker, very excited about that, very excited about it. What else do you see us growing into? What's your vision?
Well, the vision is always an interesting one, especially now that people are looking at Bitcoin SV as not just cash. Now that we're thinking about tokenizing and all that. In fact, most of the conversation nowadays seems to be away from the idea of cash. We always looked at the title of the white paper, and that was, that became our mantra, electronic cash. So that's of course where we're most excited. But I want to ask you, given all this interest and excitement and talk around tokenized solutions and data and own your own data, that sort of thing, do you see Bitcoin SV as becoming cash that people want to hold and spend, instead of just being something that you use without even knowing that you're using it?
It's a very good question. I think as a banker who's worked in payment systems for 20 years, I've had a lot of experience in trying to bring people into banking. So I've watched how hard it is actually for banks to meet the needs of ordinary people. It's expensive and hard to operate that. And I can see how having the rails out there, what I look at as being these rails that have just been built, that it just works. You don't have to build that. As a banking system, that's where a lot of your energy and effort goes into. So not being able to have to worry about that just gives you the ability to drop applications on top. So as simple as just throwing in a wallet like we have done, like ScanPay, our merchant payment solution, like Minute Money, which is a remittance offering where people are able to move money back home to their loved ones to support families. That's a payment need. That's a banking system that it doesn't necessarily need a central bank or someone controlling it. But so I definitely see that Bitcoin is money. The fact that we're being regulated and working into these spaces is just an acknowledgement that it is working as money. So I'm certainly very comfortable about that.
Yes, and And the idea now that we started off here in South Africa, but we see an enormous continent up north that we're very excited about moving into. And what we've done right now is we've opened up that corridor to Nigeria using our Minute Money application. And so now that we've done that and we've managed to prove that, the next thing is to start looking at those other countries and what other countries are in our future.
The world. It's as simple as that. I'm very excited, and I'm really glad that we've had the chance to interact with you. So please, if you haven't downloaded Centbee yet, download the app and join our journey. We're really happy to be on this wonderful journey.
Yes, and also don't forget to download the AR CoinGeek app. And download a Centbee wallet, and then what you can do is you can add your Centbee PayMail to the CoinGeek app, and you can then earn some BSV as well. So I'm now at the Centbee offices, broadcasting from almost the southernmost tip of South Africa, and I've got some of the team behind me, and I'm going to go over and we're going to chat to some of them, so you can see what it takes to build a Bitcoin business down here in Africa. So let's go and have a chat. So I'm going to first introduce you to Rob, our CFO. And now, Rob, you grab that there. So you recently received some acclaim for being a CFO in a crazy Bitcoin startup. What's it like working with Bitcoin and the blockchain ledger and trying to figure out all those transactions in your day-to-day life?
No, it's very, very interesting. Absolutely love it. It's never a dull moment. And building out something that's never been done in the way that we're doing it. There's a lot of new processes and things that we need to implement, making sure the transactions always being processed properly, and making sure we keep our customers happy. And that's really the main thing. As soon as we take money from customers, we want to make sure that we fulfill our promise to them and deliver on what we're building. So, no, it's very, very interesting and very exciting.
Cool. Thank you very much. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is introduce you to Keiji or Kagiso. He's our UI, UX designer, does all our banners and our cool graphics and all that. Keiji, how does it feel being in a Bitcoin business, and what are the challenges, or what's the fun? What do you think about Bitcoin?
What I think about Bitcoin is that it's the ultimate change that people actually need, because especially in Africa, there's a lot of challenges regarding how money moves, So Bitcoin is like a better solution for us because it has facilitated ways for us to actually make transactions easier and cheaper for people cross-border, overseas. So it has made the world actually a bit smaller. So it's pretty awesome. Yeah.
Cool. Well, awesome. Thank you very much. And I'm going to go over now to some of our senior devs, the senior engineers. Tobisi, why don't you come over here, and Malcolm, come and introduce yourselves. So here we have, let me pull over to the side. So here we've got Malcolm and we've got Tobisi, and you guys have been working on the Minute Money application. Our Minute Money is our cross-border remit app where we're using Bitcoin. What do you want to say about that, the complexity of doing all the integrations and the challenges, and also the interesting things you can say?
Yeah, I think definitely for me to be busy with this Bitcoin, I think it's a very great opportunity for me, especially, BSV is the best space to be. Also, as you mentioned, with the challenges, I think it's something that I definitely like. All my life, it's about, knocking out sort of like solving problems. So this problem that I'm solving here, I'm happy solving them, and especially because we are helping people. This thing of remit, people being able to send money to home Nigeria, it is very good. We always actually very busy. There's no time for just relaxing. We are always very busy, making sure that everything is smooth and bringing new features and just pumping it. Yeah, I enjoy.
And the complexity of the integrations. I mean, what we do is we have partners in those different countries, and
yes, definitely.
Obviously we have to now, try and make sure that transactions are being pushed correctly across, and that the callbacks are coming through. Definitely. So has that been a fair challenge?
Interesting one, because with the partners that we have, things changes time to time. We definitely find ourselves in a space where we also have to change. We are very sort of like dynamic like that. Agile like that. We have to change, make sure that we keep to their standard. They change things now and then. The interesting part, we always want to make sure that we follow, like in terms of like as you're saying, the callbacks. Sometimes the payload changes. We need to make sure that we stick to whatever that they are stating to in the other side of their APIs. Yeah, but it's very interesting, especially working with different partners to make sure that these transactions become a success. It is very interesting journey, and yeah, definitely we're enjoying it. As we speak. With Malcolm, we're busy pumping it. We're busy as we speak. We're busy with it now.
Exactly.
Yes. And also with our customers, they come first, so we have to ensure our user experience is always top notch.
Yeah. Now, you've worked with other blockchains, Malcolm, and how do you feel about Bitcoin SV? Is it anything different? How do you feel about actually working with Bitcoin SV?
Yeah, I'd say since I'm surrounded with my team, so yeah, I think the Bitcoin SV one is much easier than the other ones because I've worked with the NEM blockchain. It's also, it's not that easy, but yeah, everything is always complex and you have to deal with all the low-level stuff. So yeah. Yeah, and also,
excellent.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you guys, appreciate it. Okay, so now I just want to take us to the marketing. I know some of you have met and seen Heidi. Heidi is the head of marketing, and Katja, you haven't really seen much, so we'll go grab that. Okay, cool.
Hi guys, hello Coin Geek people.
Here we go, take that.
How's it?
So Heidi, tell us about trying to market Bitcoin as a product.
Yeah, it's challenging. I think, luckily we're working off Bitcoin SV, so it's something that we can authentically and honestly punt because we believe in it and we don't think, it's really the scalable, stable solution that can actually be used. So no issues there. It's quite fun. It's challenging. There's a lot of hurdles to get over in terms of what consumers think about Bitcoin. One of our products, Minute Money, is for sending money from South Africa to Nigeria, and that's been really, really interesting to market. We actually haven't said that it's a Bitcoin product at all because we deal with people who've never really worked with Bitcoin or used Bitcoin, so it can be a bit intimidating. So the product runs on Bitcoin, but nobody knows that. And we just market it as a great product that works. Maybe Katja, you can tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, some of the stories of the people who are moving money.
Yeah, so we've just been focusing on marketing and building the Minute Money brand over the last few months. It's been a bit challenging breaking into a new industry. The remittance industries, it's quite challenging, but I think it's just been awesome to see how the markets responded to the product, because the market's used to about 2 days to 2 hours to 2 days lead time. So for money to land within 2 minutes is really awesome. So they're super happy with that. And yeah, that's about it from the remittance side.
Cool.
Cool. Thanks, Lorien.
Yeah, well, pleasure. And all done with Bitcoin SV, only possible with Bitcoin SV. And I think what we'll do is we'll finish off back with Angus because, Angus, you've been my co-founder, my co-conspirator, and, obviously coming from a banking background, this is a crazy space. What's it like trying to create partnerships and do business deals and trying to convince our partners that Bitcoin is, a real thing and has real value and also is safe?
It is very interesting, and that's where I think our partnership works really well in the business. That we're able to complement each other in what we do, and it is a long run. It's hard work. It's not just about sort of belief in Bitcoin that it's just going to magically make the world better. It takes a lot of energy, a lot of effort. It takes lots of conversations. You've got to convince real business people in real businesses with real customers with real problems that Bitcoin can provide solutions to them, and that's what we have been doing for the last couple of years. And a lot of it is about the on-ramps and the off-ramps. And that's not about the Bitcoin technology itself. It's all about the applications that we build on top of it that allows people to, buy Bitcoin easily, spend their Bitcoin, and use it. So that's all what the guys have been talking about. It's all the integrations, all the APIs, but those are about getting in front of business people and saying, these are the solutions that we can provide you, and then being persistent, using your relationships, using your networks, and handling that. There's also work with regulators, and that is also, long term. It takes a while to persuade regulators that what we're doing is robust, it's stable, it's done by reputable people, and we're doing it to make the industry the right place for people to trust with their money and their lives and their data.
And it hasn't only been just a technology challenge, of course, banks, we have our own banks that we have issues with. So, these are the headwinds we face, but, it only makes us stronger. And we certainly are seeing the results and having so much success that, that's, as you said earlier today, that we're ready to take on the world.
And we're very happy and very excited that, the CoinGeek Live audience could join us and meet the behind the scenes of us as a team and what it's like working in a Bitcoin business and succeeding and growing. So I'm very pleased that everyone could join us today.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for listening to us and being with us and being part of the journey. We look forward to continuing to create products and changing the world and bringing Bitcoin SV to the world. Thank you very much.